At midnight, this empire still believed it would last forever. Its cities glimmered under starlight, its trade routes stretched across oceans, and its rulers whispered secrets that shaped kingdoms. Yet, today, not a single name survives. What could erase an empire so mighty from memory? Chapter 1. Introduction to the Mystery. At midnight, this empire still believed it would last forever. Its influence spread like a shadow across continents, yet today it exists only in whispers. Historians have stumbled upon fragments, coins half buried in sand, faded inscriptions on crumbling walls, vague mentions in foreign chronicles, but no name, no concrete record, no definitive map to mark its existence. It is as if history itself conspired to erase it. This was not a small kingdom or a fleeting dynasty. This was an empire that commanded trade networks, controlled wealth beyond imagination, and held power that rivaled the mightiest known civilizations. Ships sailed under its flag, caravans traversed deserts, and envoys carried its influence into distant lands. Yet, despite all this, every trace of its identity seems deliberately obscured. Why would an empire so formidable vanish without a trace? Oh, some theorists suggest it was a deliberate act. Perhaps rival states destroyed records to prevent future generations from learning its secrets. Others propose assimilation, its people, culture, and governance absorbed into surrounding kingdoms, leaving only subtle echoes behind. But even these explanations feel incomplete. How does a civilization of such magnitude disappear almost entirely from human memory? Legends hint at its existence, tales of invisible rulers, secret societies, and hidden wealth that influenced events across continents. Merchants spoke in hushed tones about shadowy powers controlling trade, and scholars discovered cryptic symbols that did not match any known language. The empire's footprint lingers, but it is fragmented, obscured, and enigmatic, like a ghost refusing to be exorcised. Perhaps its erasure is a warning, a reminder that power alone cannot guarantee permanence. Even the greatest empires, the ones that shape the course of history, are vulnerable to time, secrecy, and the forces of oblivion. And yet, something remains. Every coin, every artifact, every legend carries a whisper of a civilization that dared to control the world, but chose, or was forced, to vanish from memory. In this series, we will attempt the impossible, to reconstruct the shadow of a nameless empire. We will explore the hints it left behind, the secrets it tried to bury, and the mysteries that continue to haunt historians. This is a story without a name, yet its presence can still be felt if you know where to look. Chapter 2. The Empire's Reach the Nameless. Empire's influence was vast, stretching across deserts, mountains, and seas. Though no maps bear its name, trade routes carved by its merchants spanned continents, connecting distant cities in a network of wealth and power. Ships sailed under shadowed flags, carrying spices, silk, and metals, whose origin was often a mystery even to the traders themselves. Caravans crossed harsh landscapes, guided by knowledge that only the empire possessed, delivering goods that fueled entire economies far from the empire's heart. Its reach was not just commercial, it extended into politics, alliances, and culture. Ambassadors traveled in silence, their messages hidden within riddles and symbols, shaping decisions in foreign courts without ever revealing the empire's hand. Neighboring kingdoms spoke cautiously of the shadow rulers, whose influence seemed to seep into every aspect of governance. In marketplaces, scholars whispered of a power that controlled not just wealth, but knowledge, dictating who could rise and who would fall. Even cities bore subtle traces of the empire's presence. Architectural patterns appeared in far-flung lands, from mosaics in one region to towering walls in another, yet no inscriptions credited the builders. Artisans seemed to follow a style that transcended borders, a silent signature of an empire that preferred anonymity over fame. Its cultural footprint was deliberate, shaping societies in ways that would survive centuries, even when the empire itself did not. Some historians argue that its vast reach is why it disappeared so completely. By spreading influence rather than domination, the empire left few tangible markers of itself. Its power was felt, not seen. Political manipulation, trade monopolies, and cultural integration allowed it to rule without leaving traditional records, creating a legacy that could be observed only in patterns and echoes rather than names or monuments. The empire's reach challenges modern understanding of power. Unlike empires remembered by their kings or capitals, the nameless empire's strength lay in its invisibility. It controlled the world not through fear or conquest, but through a silent mastery of systems, trade, communication, and diplomacy that left no fingerprints for future historians to follow. And yet, its influence persists, hidden in the unlikeliest places, waiting for those who know how to read the signs. The empire was everywhere, yet nowhere. Its reach was absolute, yet its name remains absent. Understanding this paradox is the first step into the shadows, where the nameless empire waits. Chapter 3. Mechanisms of Control. Power is only as lasting as the methods used to sustain it, and the nameless empire mastered the art of unseen control. It did not rely solely on armies or fortresses, though its military could defend key regions when necessary. Instead, the empire's strength lay in subtler, almost invisible mechanisms that bound nations, merchants, and rulers to its will without them ever realizing it. One of the empire's most effective tools was trade. By monopolizing vital resources, spices, metals, textiles, it created dependence across regions. Cities and kingdoms relied on the empire for essential goods, and in turn became entangled in its invisible web of influence. Trade routes were guarded not only by soldiers, but by secrecy, ensuring that knowledge of the empire's true center remained hidden. Merchants and middlemen acted as silent agents, unknowingly spreading the empire's reach with every shipment and deal. Intelligence and information were equally crucial. The empire maintained a network of spies and informants embedded in distant courts, marketplaces, and ports. Rumors, advice, and subtle threats shaped decisions from afar. Kings and governors often acted in accordance with invisible pressure, guided by letters, envoys, or whispered instructions whose origin could not be traced. Knowledge was power, and the nameless empire held it entirely. Cultural influence was another tool of control. Art, architecture, and language subtly carried imperial patterns, creating familiarity and loyalty without formal conquest. Festivals, religious practices, or administrative systems in neighboring territories often mirrored the empire's structure, making people unwittingly conform to its ideals. Even without armies, the empire's values and customs permeated society, securing obedience through assimilation rather than coercion. Marriage alliances, secret pacts, and selective support of local leaders further cemented control. By empowering certain rulers and undermining others in shadow, the empire maintained stability while keeping its identity concealed. Its rulers rarely appeared publicly, preferring to orchestrate events from behind closed doors, a strategy that made their disappearance from history both plausible and complete. Ultimately, the nameless empire thrived not through brute force, but through mastery of systems, trade, information, culture, and diplomacy. It ruled with invisible hands, shaping the world quietly, yet decisively. And this is why, despite centuries of erasure, its influence can still be traced today, in trade patterns, architectural echoes, and whispers of forgotten power. To understand this empire, one must look not for battles won or kings crowned, but for the silent mechanisms that allowed an entire civilization to control the world without ever revealing itself. Chapter 4. Evidence Left Behind. Even as the nameless empire vanished from written records, it left traces, fragments of a civilization that hint at a power long forgotten. Coins, worn by centuries of handling, appear far from their origin, etched with symbols that scholars cannot decipher. These small objects, once ordinary currency, now serve as cryptic messages from a shadowed past, suggesting trade networks that spanned continents and reached the farthest cities of the known world. Artifacts tell similar stories. Pottery, jewelry, and tools display styles and techniques not found elsewhere, bearing subtle marks that hint at a common source. Some patterns appear in distant regions as if carried silently along invisible trade routes. Scholars have speculated that these artifacts were both functional and symbolic, conveying messages of allegiance, influence, or power. Every object seems ordinary at first glance, yet each is a piece of a vast puzzle that points to a civilization erased from memory. Written records are even more elusive. Mentions of the empire are buried in foreign chronicles, often obscured by vague references like the shadow rulers or those without a name. Ancient manuscripts hint at emissaries who moved like ghosts, leaving an imprint on diplomacy, commerce, and culture, but never revealing their origin. Some texts suggest secret councils, hidden archives, or forbidden knowledge preserved in vaults now lost to time. Architecture, too, offers subtle clues. Faded ruins in deserts, forests, and coastal regions bear structural similarities, as if built according to a shared blueprint. Massive walls, aqueducts, or temples in far-flung locations echo one another in design. Yet no inscriptions claim credit. Even towns absorbed into later civilizations retain these hidden fingerprints, silent testimony of an empire whose influence was felt more than seen. Legends and folklore preserve the most tantalizing clues. Tales of invisible rulers, hidden treasures, and secret societies persist in oral traditions, sometimes centuries after the supposed fall of the empire. These myths are often dismissed as fantasy, yet patterns in trade, culture, and art suggest they may hold fragments of truth. The evidence left behind is tantalizing but incomplete. Each coin, relic, ruin, and whisper hints at a civilization that controlled the world from the shadows. Piecing these fragments together is like assembling a ghost, an empire that cannot be held, yet whose presence lingers, waiting to be discovered by those brave enough to follow the trail. Chapter 5. Theories behind their erasure. How does an empire so vast, so powerful, vanish almost entirely from history? Scholars have long debated the disappearance of the nameless empire, offering theories that range from deliberate erasure to natural decay. Each explanation carries its own intrigue, hinting at the delicate balance between power, secrecy, and memory. One of the most compelling ideas is deliberate destruction. Rivals, threatened by the empire's influence, may have sought to erase it completely. Libraries burned, records shredded, monuments dismantled, every trace removed to prevent future generations from learning the secrets of the shadow rulers. In some cases, political enemies could have rewritten histories to claim victories, intentionally leaving the nameless empire as a void, a silence in the story of civilization. Another theory suggests assimilation. The empire may not have been destroyed, but absorbed. Its people, governance systems, and cultural practices could have merged into surrounding kingdoms, leaving no distinct identity behind. In this scenario, the empire survives in fragments, architectural styles, trade networks, and rituals that persist long after its political authority fades. Its legacy becomes invisible, embedded in the societies it once influenced. Natural decay and the passage of time offer another explanation. Centuries of conflict, environmental changes, or epidemics could have eroded cities and documents, leaving only whispers and partial artifacts. Unlike empires remembered through grand monuments or written chronicles, the nameless empire's power lay in subtle systems, trade, intelligence, and diplomacy that left fewer permanent marks, making it more vulnerable to obliteration. Some historians propose a combination of all three: erasure, assimilation, and decay, working together to wipe the empire from memory. By operating in shadows, influencing without leaving overt claims of power, the nameless empire ensured its own invisibility. And paradoxically, this secrecy may have been its greatest strength and its ultimate undoing. The disappearance of this empire challenges our understanding of history. It reminds us that records are fragile, memory is selective, and power does not always guarantee legacy. Some civilizations leave grand monuments, others leave only echoes, whispers, and questions. The nameless empire exists in the spaces between certainty and speculation, daring us to reconstruct it from what little remains. To follow its trail is to confront the limits of knowledge, to peer into the shadows of human memory, and to accept that some of history's greatest powers may never be fully known. Chapter 6. Modern Connection. Though the nameless empire vanished from history, its presence lingers, subtly shaping the modern world. Patterns of trade, architecture, and culture hint that this forgotten power still echoes across continents. Scholars and archaeologists have begun to notice connections that suggest the empire's influence may be far from entirely erased, even in today's cities and societies. Trade routes once dominated by the empire evolved into the foundations of modern commerce. Certain roads, river passages, and ports, originally laid down under the empire's direction, remain crucial arteries for goods and resources. The empire's mastery of logistics and networks resonates in supply chains that stretch thousands of miles, linking regions that were once under its unseen sway. Even modern marketplaces unknowingly mirror the patterns established centuries ago, showing how enduring systems can outlast the civilization that created them. Architecture and urban planning also bear the empire's fingerprints. In cities across Asia, Europe, and the Middle East, structural designs, aqueducts, and city layouts reflect techniques that originated with a source no longer recorded. Buildings that seem disconnected by geography share architectural signatures hidden in plain sight, a silent tribute to a civilization that preferred influence over fame. Even modern governments may unknowingly employ administrative or cultural principles rooted in the nameless empire's subtle guidance. Legends persist, too. Secret societies, myths, and local folklore often reference unseen rulers, hidden treasures, or invisible councils that controlled history from behind the curtain. While many dismiss these stories as fantasy, patterns in trade, culture, and governance suggest they may preserve fragments of truth. For those who look closely, the empire's shadow can still be traced, hiding in overlooked manuscripts, remote ruins, or even in symbols used by later civilizations. The nameless empire's modern connection serves as a reminder that influence can survive without visibility. Power does not always require recognition to persist. Ideas, systems, and networks can outlast empires themselves. By studying these remnants, we begin to understand how an anonymous civilization shaped the world in ways still relevant today. Ultimately, the nameless empire teaches a profound lesson. History is not only written in names and monuments, but in the invisible threads that weave through societies, connecting past to present. Even centuries later, those threads remain, subtle, enduring, and waiting for discovery. The nameless empire ruled from the shadows, shaping continents without leaving a name behind. Coins, ruins, and whispered legends are all that remain, hinting at a civilization that controlled trade, power, and influence, yet vanished from memory. Its story reminds us that history is written not only in monuments, but in invisible threads that connect past to present. Some secrets may still be out there, waiting to be discovered. If you're fascinated by hidden empires, forgotten powers, and untold histories, subscribe to Midnight Empire and explore the shadows where history hides.